Hello everyone, welcome back to HOA Tales. Today I'm going to tell you a story that will make you understand why we should never judge people by their appearance or physical condition. It's about how a homeowners association brutally discriminated against my blind wife, without knowing they were messing with one of the most respected and feared federal judges in the country. If you thought you'd already seen injustice on this channel, get ready, because this story will show how arrogance and prejudice can destroy entire lives in a matter of hours. Before we start, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, because every week I bring real stories of people who faced abusive HOAs and got their revenge in epic ways. And if you like this story of justice being served, leave that cheeky like that really helps the channel grow. Perfect life before the storm. This story happened 3 years ago when my wife Rebecca and I moved to an exclusive condominium called Golden Gate Estates. Rebecca is an extraordinary woman. She lost her sight at 20 due to a rare genetic disease, but that never stopped her from achieving her dreams. She graduated from Harvard Law, got a master's degree in criminal justice, and at 42, had become one of the youngest and most respected federal judges in the United States. What made Rebecca even more special was her inseparable partner, Luna, a beautiful golden retriever perfectly trained as a guide dog. Luna wasn't just Rebecca's eyes, she was her best friend, her companion at all times, her protection, and her freedom. Together, they formed a perfect duo that impressed everyone with their synchrony and elegance. When we decided to move to Golden Gate Estates, it was because the place seemed perfect for our needs. The condominium had well-paved trails, was located near the courthouse where Rebecca worked, and the homeowners association seemed welcoming during our initial visit. They talked about inclusive community and family values, words that made us believe it would be the ideal home. Rebecca was especially excited because she would finally have a garden where Luna could run freely on weekends. She loved walking with Luna on the condominium trails on Saturday mornings, before starting to review the cases she would take to court the following week. The first signs of intolerance. In the first few months, everything seemed to go well. The neighbors were polite. Rebecca could move easily around the condominium with Luna, and our routine was establishing perfectly. Rebecca left every morning at 7 o'clock sharp for the courthouse, elegant in her dark suits with Luna by her side, both walking with the dignity and confidence that characterized them. But then, something began to change. We started receiving strange looks from some residents. Some people began to whisper when Rebecca passed with Luna. At first, we thought it was just normal curiosity. After all, not everyone is used to living with guide dogs. The situation escalated when a new president was elected for the Homeowners Association. Karen Mitchell, a 50-year-old woman who considered herself the moral and aesthetic guardian of the condominium. Karen had a sick obsession with rules and appearances, and from the first day she took office, she made it clear that she would make necessary changes to raise the standard of the community. Rebecca's first interaction with Karen was revealing. Rebecca was returning from a morning walk with Luna when Karen approached her at the building entrance. "Excuse me," Karen said, physically blocking the way, "but I need to talk about this animal." Rebecca, always polite, responded calmly. "Luna is my guide dog. She is protected by federal law and has the right to accompany me everywhere." Karen laughed disrespectfully and said, "Federal laws don't apply to our condominium's private rules. And our new policy is clear: no animals in common areas." The escalation of persecution. In the following days, the persecution intensified dramatically. Karen began a systematic campaign against Rebecca and Luna, using her position in the association to make our lives hell. She sent official HOA letters demanding that Rebecca control her animal and threatening fines for community conduct violations. The first fine arrived for Rebecca having allowed her animal to disturb other residents, a completely false accusation, since Luna was perfectly trained and never barked or caused any disturbance. The second fine was for unauthorized use of elevators with animals. The third was for contamination of common areas with animal hair. Karen was clearly inventing violations to justify her discrimination, but she was smart enough to use language that didn't explicitly mention Rebecca's disability. She thought this would protect her from discrimination accusations. But the situation became even more absurd when Karen installed additional security cameras, specifically to monitor Rebecca and Luna's movements. She hired private security guards to make reports whenever they used the common areas. Rebecca was being treated like a criminal in her own home. The worst part was when Karen called an emergency meeting of the association to discuss the animal problem in the condominium. At the meeting, she presented a proposal for a new animal policy that basically banned all pets from common areas, including guide dogs. "We can't make exceptions," Karen declared before the residents present. "If we open precedents for one animal, soon we'll have all kinds of uncontrolled beasts running around here. Rules are rules, and everyone must follow them equally." The public humiliation. The situation reached its lowest point on a rainy Tuesday in November. Rebecca was returning from court after a particularly difficult day. She had presided over the trial of a complex civil rights case and was mentally exhausted. When she and Luna arrived at the building lobby, Karen was there waiting with 2 private security guards. "Madam, I'm going to have to ask you to remove that animal from the condominium premises immediately," Karen said loudly, so that all the residents present could hear. Rebecca, wet from the rain and tired, tried to explain once more. "As I've said several times, Luna is my guide dog. She has a legal right to be here with me." "I don't care what kind of training this dog has had," Karen shouted, attracting even more attention. "The condominium rules are clear. No animals in common areas. If you can't follow simple rules, maybe this isn't the right place for you to live." That's when Karen made the biggest mistake of her life. She gestured to the security guards and said, "Escort this person and her animal out of the building. She is banned from common areas until she resolves her animal situation." Rebecca was in shock. She was being publicly humiliated and discriminated against because of her disability, treated like a second-class citizen in her own home. Tears began to flow down her face, not from sadness, but from a deep indignation I had never seen in her before. "Karen," Rebecca said with a voice trembling with controlled emotion, "are you absolutely sure you want to continue with this attitude?" Karen laughed maliciously and replied, "Absolutely. And if you don't like it, you can sue the association. Good luck trying to win against our expensive lawyers." The darkest night that night, I found Rebecca sitting in our apartment, hugging Luna and crying silently. She told me everything that had happened, every detail of the public humiliation she had suffered. My heart broke seeing the strongest and most courageous woman I knew being destroyed by pure prejudice and cruelty. "She made me feel like I was less than human," Rebecca whispered, "as if my disability made me unworthy of living here. And the worst part is that she did it in front of our neighbors, as if she wanted to publicly shame me." Rebecca showed me the pile of fines that Karen had sent, more than $3,000 in invented violations. She also showed me the photos that the private security guards had taken of her and Luna, as if they were criminals being monitored. "What hurts me most," Rebecca continued, "is that she thinks she can do this without consequences. She thinks I'm just a defenseless blind woman who can't protect herself." It was at that moment that I realized something that Karen Mitchell had no idea about. She had awakened the wrong monster. Rebecca wasn't just a blind woman with a guide dog. She was the Honorable Rebecca Thompson, federal judge of the Federal Court of Justice, one of the most respected judicial authorities in the country, specialist in civil rights and discrimination. Karen had committed federal crimes against a federal judge, documented everything in writing, and on top of that had created video evidence of her discrimination. She had signed her own prison sentence. The devastating revelation. The next morning, Rebecca did something I had never seen her do before. She smiled with that cold and calculating smile that I knew meant someone was about to discover why she was one of the most feared judges in the federal system. "Honey," she said, "I think it's time for Karen Mitchell to meet the real Rebecca Thompson." Rebecca put on her most formal suit, an elegant black ensemble she used only for the most important cases. She put on her judicial badge, took Luna by her official work leash, and left the apartment with a dignity that radiated power and authority. But Rebecca didn't go alone. She had made some calls the night before. When they arrived at the building lobby, she was accompanied by 2 federal agents specialized in civil rights crimes, a lawyer expert in discrimination against people with disabilities, and a federal housing law enforcement officer. Karen was in the lobby, as always, probably waiting to humiliate Rebecca once more. When she saw Rebecca approaching with all that official entourage, her first instinct was to try to impose her authority as HOA president. "I already told you not to bring that animal to the common areas," Karen shouted, without even noticing who the people accompanying Rebecca were. That's when Rebecca spoke, and her voice had that authority I had heard thousands of times when she presided over trials. "Mrs. Karen Mitchell, my name is Honorable Rebecca Thompson. federal judge of the United States Federal Court of Justice. The silence in the lobby was deafening. Karen instantly turned pale. During the past few weeks, Rebecca continued, you have committed multiple federal civil rights violations, disability-based discrimination, and harassment under color of authority. You have meticulously documented each of your crimes in official letters, video recordings, and eyewitnesses. Relentless justice. What happened in the next few minutes was one of the most impressive demonstrations of justice being applied that I have ever witnessed. The federal agents began reading Karen her rights while presenting search and seizure warrants for all homeowners association documents. You can't do this, Karen screamed desperately. I'm the association president. I have rights. Mrs. Mitchell, said the discrimination specialist lawyer, you violated the Americans with Disabilities Act, multiple federal fair housing laws, and committed criminal harassment against a federal authority. Your rights as HOA president don't protect you from federal crimes. Rebecca remained calm and professional throughout the process, but I could see in her eyes the satisfaction of seeing justice being done. Karen had spent weeks treating Rebecca as if she were powerless and vulnerable, without knowing she was attacking one of the most powerful people in the American judicial system. The most delicious aspect was when the agents began reviewing the fines that Karen had sent. Each one constituted documented evidence of intentional discrimination. Karen had literally built the federal case against herself, one fine at a time. Mrs. Mitchell, Rebecca said, during my career in the federal judiciary, I have presided over hundreds of discrimination cases. I have rarely seen a case so well documented by the perpetrator herself. You created a complete file of evidence of your own crimes. The total fall. In the next 24 hours, Karen Mitchell's entire life collapsed completely. The federal investigation revealed that her discrimination against Rebecca was not an isolated case. She had been systematically persecuting other vulnerable residents for years. We discovered that Karen had forced a Hispanic family to move by claiming noise violations when their children played on the playground. She had harassed a war veteran with PTSD, threatening to fine him for his emotional support dog. She had discriminated against an elderly couple for their wheelchairs, disturbing the aesthetics of the common areas. Karen had built a small empire of discrimination and abuse, always thinking she was protected by her position in the homeowners association. She never imagined that her actions constituted serious federal crimes. But the final blow came when we discovered that Karen had been embezzling association funds to pay her private security consultants, the guards she used to harass Rebecca and other residents. Not only had she committed federal discrimination, but also fraud and embezzlement. The federal investigation expanded to include all association board members who had supported Karen's discriminatory policies. Several of them were indicted for conspiracy to violate federal civil rights. The reconstruction of justice. Rebecca decided to transform that experience into something positive for the entire community. Using her position as a federal judge and her personal experience with discrimination, she launched an initiative to educate homeowners associations about civil rights and accessibility laws. She organized free seminars for building managers and administrators, teaching them about legal obligations regarding people with disabilities. Rebecca wanted to ensure that no other person went through what she had gone through. The most impressive thing was seeing how the other residents reacted when they discovered who Rebecca really was. Many of them approached to apologize for not having defended her when Karen was persecuting her. They realized they had allowed a federal judicial authority to be humiliated in her own home out of pure prejudice and cowardice. Rebecca, with her characteristic generosity, forgave everyone who asked for sincere apologies. The important thing, she said, is not what happened in the past, but what we do to ensure this never happens again. The price of discrimination. Karen Mitchell was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for multiple civil rights violations, fraud, and embezzlement. She was also fined $250,000 and ordered to pay reparations to all victims of her discrimination over the years. But the punishment didn't stop there. Karen lost her house in the condominium. Her reputation was destroyed, and she was permanently banned from serving in any position of authority in homeowners associations. Her professional career ended, and she became a national example of how prejudice and discrimination can destroy an entire life. The most ironic thing is that Karen always considered herself a respectable and superior person to other residents. She thought her position gave her the right to treat people with disabilities as second-class citizens. In the end, She discovered she had been discriminating against one of the most powerful and respected people in the country and paid the maximum price for her ignorance and cruelty. Folks, I know many of you must be satisfied seeing Karen get what she deserved, but the story still has more twists. If you want to see the epic ending of this saga, leave that like to motivate me to continue. The complete transformation. In the following months, Golden Gate Estates underwent a complete transformation. Rebecca was invited to join the new association board, where she implemented truly inclusive and respectful policies. The condominium became a national model of inclusion and accessibility. Luna, our four-legged hero, could finally enjoy all areas of the condominium without persecution or discrimination. She became a kind of community mascot, loved by all the children and respected by all adults. Many residents commented how Luna was more polite and well-behaved than many humans they knew. Rebecca also used her experience to write an academic article on discrimination in homeowners associations, which became a national reference on the subject. She was invited to speak at universities and legal conferences, always accompanied by Luna, showing how people with disabilities can be powerful and influential when given the right opportunities. The most rewarding aspect was seeing how other residents with disabilities began moving to the condominium, knowing it would be a place where they would be respected and welcomed. Golden Gate Estates went from being a place of discrimination to becoming a symbol of inclusion. The eternal lesson. This story taught me something fundamental about human nature. We never know who the people around us really are. Karen Mitchell looked at Rebecca and saw only a blind woman with a dog, someone she considered vulnerable and easy to intimidate. What Karen couldn't see was the strength, intelligence, dignity, and real power that Rebecca possessed. She didn't see one of the most respected federal judges in the country, a woman who had dedicated her career to protecting the rights of the vulnerable and punishing those who abuse their power. Rebecca's visual impairment didn't make her weak. In fact, it had strengthened her determination to fight for justice and equality. Karen made the fatal mistake of underestimating someone based only on physical appearance, without realizing she was attacking one of the most powerful people she could encounter. The lasting legacy. Today, 3 years later, Rebecca continues serving as a federal judge and still lives at Golden Gate Estates with Luna by her side. The condominium has become a place where all people, regardless of their differences or disabilities, are treated with dignity and respect. Karen Mitchell, on the other hand, serves her sentence in a federal prison, where she has plenty of time to reflect on how her prejudice and arrogance destroyed her entire life. She spends her days in a small cell, without power, without authority, without respect, exactly the opposite of how she used to treat other people. The final irony is that, in prison, Karen is under the authority of federal guards who answer to the same judicial system that Rebecca represents. In a way, she is serving her sentence under the shadow of the woman she tried to humiliate and destroy. Final call to action. Folks, this story is more than just a tale of revenge. It's a powerful reminder that we should treat all people with respect and dignity, regardless of their apparent differences or disabilities. We never know who the people around us really are, and more importantly, everyone deserves to be treated with basic humanity. If you liked this epic story of justice being served, don't forget to leave that cheeky like down below. It really motivates me to keep bringing these incredible stories to you. Share this story with your friends and family, especially with people who work in condominiums or homeowners associations. It's important that everyone understands that discrimination has serious consequences, and that treating people with disabilities disrespectfully is not only morally wrong, but also criminal. If you have your own discrimination stories or want to share similar experiences, leave them in the comments. I read them all and always respond when I can. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, because every week I bring new stories of people who faced evil HOAs and got their epic revenge. Until next time, folks, and remember, never underestimate anyone based on appearance. The person you're mistreating today might be exactly the person with power to change your life tomorrow.